Hey, everybody, this is the MMA Spectator. I am John Gibbons, and thanks for tuning in. Today, I speak to a man named Matt Bousson. He is the head coach, right-hand man to Coach Kale over at the Treigning Labs. They're doing a bunch of interesting things going on over there, and I talked to Matt about how he got into athletic training and performance, interesting stuff that they've got going on over at the Treigning Lab, and we touch on the separation of TJ Dillashaw and the lab, and then also we discuss all the future business plans for the Treigning Labs themselves. If you want to find Matt on Instagram, he is at CoachBossTLab. Look for his podcast there. Very interesting stuff coming up. He's just started as well. Or you can go over to @Treigning_Lab, and that is TREIGNING_lab. And for your online classes, go check out the Treigning Labs website. And if you do sign up for any online programs, in the message box, please put promo code -spectator to take advantage of any discounts that they might be offering at the time. Again, thanks for tuning in, and please go onto all platforms where you might be listening to this. Leave a 5-star review, follow, like, comment, tag friends there and over here on Instagram, anything that they might find interesting. It helps spread the word, and I really appreciate it. And enjoy the episode. Thanks. Just wanted to say I appreciate you taking the time to talk to me. I know you guys are building a lot of stuff over there and working on everything you got going on, so I appreciate your time.
Yeah, no problem at all, man. Thank you.
So I'd like to take this time to just kind of get to know you, and then obviously the business that you're working for. Back to the beginning, just kind of how you even got into athletics and things like that. Did you play any competitive sports as a kid and into high school, college, and so on?
Yeah, definitely. I guess it started for me. I got a bit of a funny story. I'm actually half Australian, half American. So I was born in the U.S. and I moved to Australia when I was 8 months old. So kind of my younger years, I was exposed to a lot of rugby. That's kind of my main sport I started playing when I was a little kid. And just, anything kind of full contact nature, that's always been my sport. I moved to the U.S. to start high school when I was about 14, started living with my dad. And then when I was about 15, got into mixed martial arts. I actually watched the movie Ong Bak, which is a Thai movie about Muay Thai. I saw that movie when I was a kid and just kind of got obsessed with martial arts and wanting to train there. So I got involved in mixed martial arts myself at about 15, 16. Tried to do that. That was kind of in my head. I mean, of course, I was in high school, but I was like, in my head, I'm going to be a pro athlete. This is how it's going to work. Like, I'm just going to be a pro fighter. As you can imagine, about 15 years ago, there wasn't anywhere near as many opportunities to kind of train and compete like there were now. And in fact, actually back then, mixed martial arts was still illegal. So the only way that you could get a fight was illegally down in Mexico or on an Indian reservation here in the U.S. So kind of from there, I actually went to London, did some studying in London, and kind of from there nearly as an adult, I guess, an adolescent in 1920, got back into rugby, moved back to Australia to start going to college out there, and then try to play semi-professionally out there. Got hurt again, so I've kind of always been around sports, always been around full contact sports. That's kind of my main first love. So American football, rugby, and mixed martial arts are kind of my main three. So I guess that's a bit of background on myself and kind of how I got into the game. As they say, those who can play, those who can't coach. So I ended up coaching, those who can't play end up coaching. So it's obvious what I ended up doing. So yeah, I guess that in a nutshell is kind of a bit of my story and sporting background from there.
Did you start training athletes right away, or was it did you hit kind of like a low point of not being able to compete yourself, and then just kind of had to think about how you could still be around?
Yeah, that's a great question. So when I was about 7 days after my 21st birthday, I got hurt. I got hurt in a routine rugby drill, just at our practice. Broke my ankle. Ended up being a pretty severe ankle injury. I was in crutches for about 5 months. Took me about 7 months to learn how to walk again properly, to get the range of motion and stuff back in my ankle, and was nearly 10, 11 months before I could run again from the date of the injury. So that kind of whole year was 2010 was a really low year for myself, just somebody that was so active and involved in so many different sports and training, pretty much every day, to pretty much not being able to do anything, walking on crutches. I couldn't even go to the grocery store without a friend being there and helping me out. So that was pretty tough. And then from there, that's when I really got into, I guess, the coaching side of things. So of course, because of my own injury, I got really, really obsessed with like injury rehab, a lot of injury prevention things, just trying to get, joints back to their normal function and things like that. So I guess because my career kind of got cut short as I saw it, I knew that I wanted to be around this lifestyle and around pro athletics and sports and have the ability to travel around the world and experience different things. So from there, that's when I kind of turned my time and attention into coaching. I was fortunate enough to earn an internship opportunity at Stanford University. So I moved from Australia to Stanford to start that. And that was really one of the best experiences ever. So it's kind of it sucked that I was no longer able to play, but it was cool at the same time because now I was kind of thrown into this world of coaching and just jumped on a whole bunch of opportunities from there. So, kind of it sucked, but very fortunate at the same time.
Oh, yeah, I definitely could imagine, ending your own athletic career and then kind of seeing what's going to go on after that. But, I mean, being able to move all over, kind of live all over the world, and then being able to come back over here, going to Stanford and finding your path that way, I mean, it's definitely an interesting and exciting path to get down to what did lead you where you're at. So when you're working with athletes, are there any particular sports that you try to stick around, or are you open to anybody? And then on that, do you have a particular athlete that you like working with the most? Not person, but background.
Yeah, great question. I guess, again, I stick to kind of my three personal favorites. Again, just American football, rugby, and mixed martial arts. For me, they've kind of been the pinnacle of training athletes because of those sports and the nature. I mean, I guess MMA is going to kind of end up being my absolute favorite just because of the different dynamics of the sport, and there's so many different challenges and different body types. Whereas kind of with American football and rugby, you kind of get a pretty generalized body of type of guy that you need, somebody that's big and can run fast and can tackle. Whereas mixed martial art, it's kind of like Pandora's box, honestly. There's so many different body types and styles, and, guys that are kind of tall and lanky and, more kickboxing style versus, you're very strong and powerful, more wrestler backgrounds and different things like that. So I guess mixed martial art for me has kind of always been the most challenging. Just again, because of all those different variables. But I really love all the above. And on that note, we don't just work with athletes here at the Treigning Lab. We work with all different types of clients. We have kids programs. We run like a fit camp, training camp for a lot of the parents. So I kind of work with all ages, populations, groups, sizes, and all of the above, but definitely kind of have my favorites that I like to work with. In terms of a favorite one athlete, man, that'd be so hard to pick. Guys and different athletes. I guess right off the top of my head, number one would have to, the name that sticks out would be a guy like Andrew Luck. Big time football player, but just also super, super humble guy. It was kind of funny that when I spent time around him, I was only an intern at the time at Stanford, but he would actually spend a lot more time asking me questions, about my life and growing up in Australia and things like that. So that was always kind of cool. And so I guess anytime I get that question, it almost instantly, he always sticks out. But then, worked with so many other great athletes. Kyle Noak, a UFC fighter from Australia. I worked with him for a couple of years in Australia, and he's absolutely, man, I kind of look at him like an older brother figure. So, yeah, he was great. But, again, the list could go on. I've worked with some really, really cool people. Yeah, it's kind of a hard question to answer, I guess.
No problem. So when you're doing the physical training for the athletes, this is going to be kind of a two-part. Are you doing the nutritional side of things as well, or are you leaving that up to a nutritionist? And if you do leave it up to a nutritionist, how closely are the two of you building a game plan for a particular athlete together?
Yeah, great question. So I guess for me and the kind of system that Coach Cal and I are building here at the Treigning Lab, of course, he's the absolute world's best, in terms of biochemistry, nutrition, all of those side of things. So, of course, I leave a lot of that stuff up to him, and I kind of just follow his lead. So he and I work very closely. We we meet regularly almost every day, if not every other day. So he kind of handles a lot of that side of things, especially with our big time athletes, you know, with their weight cutting and things like that. So I'm still learning a whole lot, especially when it comes to a lot of the weight cutting side of things. But so I guess I handle a lot of the strength and conditioning, a lot of the athlete performance, like training programs and things like that. And then again, I'm working very closely with Coach Cal and learning a lot of his methods, a lot of the methods and stuff like that we're putting together in a course as well. We created an online course last year that's going really well for people to kind of start learning a lot of the behind the scenes stuff that we do with a lot of these guys. So that's been cool as well. But yeah, for the most part, the nutrition side of things comes straight from Coach Cal, and I'm kind of here just learning. I have studied a little bit of sports nutrition and things like that just as part of my degree, but kind of once I started looking at like what is my niche going to be, I went down the musculoskeletal kind of biomechanics side of sports performance.
Okay, very cool. Yeah, so you guys have everything. It's going to be like a one-stop shop. Then everything's right in house.
Yeah, absolutely. That's our goal. And so with myself and Coach Cal, as well as a team of medical doctors we've brought in, we've teamed up with another outfit called O2 Health Lab that does a lot of the recovery side of things. We're bringing in doctors that have all types of really, really cool and cutting edge kind of, I guess, processes or protocols that are brand spanking new. So yeah, that's our goal here, is to have an absolute one-stop shop. You know, we kind of don't really need to refer out to anybody else. That's our goal.
Awesome. So when a new athlete walks in the door, could you give just a simple, I don't want you to give away exactly what you guys do, but just kind of a step-by-step process of what you do before working with them, all right, just to kind of get like a baseline of what they're able to do. Do you put them through workouts? Do you do blood samples? Or kind of just to get your baseline and you know where they stand, what do you guys kind of do?
Yeah, great question. So the first thing that we do is we come in, depending on the level of athlete or client, of course. I mean, we could just, you know, do a really, really basic program like we run for our kids, or all the way up to, you know, a world champion level athlete. So basically the way it would come in, we'd come in, talk about, you know, their goals and different things like that. Once we kind of figure out what their goals are and what they want to do, then we kind of figure out, okay, what kind of information do I need to know about that? So, of course, if it comes to me and building the strength and conditioning kind of performance program, I perform some type of movement assessment, some type of, and it doesn't have to be a real strict kind of scored assessment, but just something where I'm putting them through movements and starting to get an idea and understanding of what their body's capable of, how well they can move, before we start loading it. You know, as you can imagine, if there's some type of, you know, limitation in the left hip or something, obviously I'm not going to load that up with a heavy back squat, you know, potentially cause even more issues or something like that. So we put them through some type of movement assessment. That gives me a great idea of where they are mechanically. And then we'll go into Coach Cal's metabolic testing room, and we'll do a number of metabolic tests. The first one we do is a RMR, which is a resting metabolic rate. And that basically just tells you how much energy you're expending and how much energy you need to eat and fuel, just kind of on a daily basis. And then we could do any number of other tests, like a VO2 max test, if we're looking at, you know, a high performance athlete. For anybody else, for any type of client, we recommend what's called a HTMA, a hair tissue mineral analysis test. What that does is you just take a little clipping of hair, send it into the lab, and it basically breaks down and gives you a nutrient and mineral profile of kind of like where your current healthy levels are at, or if you're not healthy, you know, you've got imbalances with some, you know, heavy metals or toxic metals and things like that. And then from there, that kind of gives us a really good baseline of where the athlete or client is metabolically as well as mechanically. So from there, we can start putting together a plan for nutrition, for training, even for hydration and different things like that. So it's kind of a really unique process. And as I've been here with Coach Cal, we're kind of refining that process and building it out, you know, to be even more and more detailed, which has been pretty cool to kind of learn. And again, a lot of the processes that he uses are really cool. So that's kind of how the process would go. We go through some type of movement assessment, and then a number of different metabolic assessments as well, kind of, again, depending on what the client's looking for, what their goals are, and different things like that.
So touching on that, doing like the sending in the hair test and everything, and then you guys got the program. This is kind of within that realm, but kind of jumping forward. And I'm going to come back to another question. But you guys offer online stuff through the training lab now too.
That's good.
Is that on the table as one of the offers to where somebody like me, I'm over in Michigan, something I could send you guys some samples, maybe pictures of myself, you could see what the body type is, maybe a questionnaire, and could work remotely?
Yeah, absolutely. We have remote coaching that we started a couple months ago. So with the hair test, the lab's actually in Texas. So you send them the hair test, takes 7 to 10 days in the lab. They'll analyze it, send you and myself a report. And then before we get on a consultation, I would do some pre-readings, go through the report, start looking at your nutrient and mineral balances. You know, maybe something like you need some more electrolytes like sodium, potassium, or we need to increase things in your diet like magnesium or calcium or any number of those things. We do the consultation over the phone or via video conference. And then from there, we kind of start creating an action plan. Like, all right, what types of lifestyle and dietary changes do we need to start making, you know, each day from here on out to start making some changes? So that's definitely how it works. It works online remotely, which, again, we started a few months ago now, and it's starting to build up. I've done probably over 50 different HTMA hair test consults now since I started learning the process from Coach Cal, and those clients have literally been all over the world. I've talked to people in Chile, in Europe, in Australia, New Zealand, all over the U.S. from kind of East Coast, Florida, New York, Texas, you know, to here over here on the West Coast in California. So it's kind of cool, and it's a really unique process that, you know, it's everything that we do here, and the moniker that Coach Cal came up with is success through science. And I really love that because that's essentially at the end of the day exactly what we're doing. You know, we don't do anything via guesswork. We're not guessing, oh, maybe you should eat some of this or maybe you should eat some of that. We're doing all of these tests and getting tangible evidence and data. We can take that information and then make, you know, educated choices on exactly what to eat, on exactly what not to eat, or when we should rest and recover, and all these different types of things. It really comes down to a point where, you know, there is no guesswork. It's coming down from what the numbers are telling us.
That's fantastic, because there's, I mean, not to knock any doctors or anything like that, but I mean, you go in for a yearly physical, and they're saying, oh, hey, your cholesterol's a little high, you know, kind of watch these foods and eat a little bit more of this, and we'll see you next year. You know, they're just trying to make sure you're not killing yourself right now, but not necessarily trying to get you in better shape and a fully healthier lifestyle. Or a lot of these small MMA gyms, you know, all over the country that they don't have great trainers. They might have guys that you can sit in the gym and train with and learn some techniques, but, you know, they don't have somebody like you guys in there every day, you know, watching what they're eating, getting them on these plans. And I mean, that's fantastic that they got somewhere they can go online, put in their stuff. It doesn't matter where you're at, who you're affiliated with. You know, it's something that, you know, you pay for the service and you're going to get something back that's honorable and in the right direction. So that's awesome.
Yeah, definitely. And that's definitely the goal too.
So being a young guy, initially meeting world-class athletes, coming in to start doing training, do you ever feel that they're questioning your direction, or do you think that, you know, who you're affiliated with, they come in and they're open ears right off the bat?
That's a really, really great question, actually. One I haven't been asked for a long time. I guess I might be a little biased, and I definitely got a little chip on my shoulder, but being so young in this field, I've felt very ageist, I guess, for a very long time, even back to like my early 20s when I first started working with a bunch of pro athletes. I was maybe 21 or 22 at the time. So I think that's just something that I've always been dealing with, maybe something I'm always going to deal with. I think, unfortunately, too, the nature of the beast in strength and conditioning as a profession is a lot of it is guilty till proven innocent instead of the other way around. You know, so a lot of the times it's like, oh, if this program works or if these methods work. And it's like, for me, it's like I've been using a lot of these same methods. Of course, the new stuff I've learned from Cal, but a lot of the other stuff I learned from, again, really, really phenomenal coaches nearly 10 years ago. It's not my own stuff. It's just stuff I've learned from really great coaches and have applied it in my own way. So there have been definitely points throughout my career where I have felt very, very frustrated in that sense where, you know, I kind of have felt like, you know, I wasn't listened to or kind of looked down to because I was, you know, a lot younger. Maybe more so in my academic career. I used to have to go to a lot of meetings and presentations and things like that where I was literally the youngest person in the room by maybe 20 or 30 years. So I
Yeah.
kind of, in that sense, it's been a little frustrating, but for the most part, I mean, sports, the beauty of sport is that if you know what you're talking about, people are going to understand it very quickly. And for myself, it's been involved in these sports. So when I'm talking to athletes and things like that, I think a lot of that kind of doubt will start getting dispelled once I kind of start talking, once I start coaching and doing my thing. I think it's pretty quick that people can see I know what I'm talking about. You know, I love this stuff. I spent a lot of years and a lot of time kind of perfecting it and trying to get better at it. So I think those points start coming out of the woodwork and get rid of maybe some of that doubt or something like that, you know, because of my age or something else. But it is definitely something I've felt and experienced throughout my career, for sure.
All right. Would you mind sharing any knowledge, even very basic, on something that you would tell parents and young athletes? I'm talking, 10, 11, maybe even up to 14 or 15 years old, of a couple of things to start doing and maybe to stop doing right now that could be hindering them in a performance-based level and maybe shorten their career. And then some things that you might see, hey, if you do this, this is going to give you a little bit longer longevity and not jeopardize even a college career.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the biggest one, especially if we are talking more about kind of younger combat sport athletes, the way that they condition, stop running, and especially when you're weight cutting and you're eating no food and you're running even more, just the load and the accumulation of that load and joint forces and stuff when you're already now depleted from not eating calories. That alone, once you start doing it over a course of years and years and years, that could cause so many different issues like knees and ankles and hips and low back and things like that. So I definitely recommend find another way to condition, maybe something shorter, maybe on a bike, some battle rope, something like that. Just try to get rid of a lot of those heavy miles. We're not long distance runners, so we don't need to train like that. That would always be kind of the biggest one I try to tell kids. And then another is really nice and easy. Just paying attention to your hydration and to your sleep. Those two are massive in terms of performance and even recovery as well. So really easily, a lot of kids will be drinking water, maybe carry a water bottle. That's one of the cues that we always tell our athletes and clients, make sure you're carrying around a metal water bottle with you. But then not just having water with it, make sure you add electrolyte. Things that we recommend is real nice and easy, just lemon and lime juice and maybe a pinch of Himalayan pink salt. That way you're getting a lot of the electrolytes, that you're getting the water into your cells and down to the cellular level, which is what your body needs. Those two are kind of the biggest ones I tell kids because they are very easy to do. Carry a water bottle around, make sure you get your electrolytes. Staying hydrated is huge, and that's just for overall kids' development and as they're growing and things like that, making sure that their brain's firing right, their coordination is on point, things like that. And hydration and the electrolytes is a huge aspect of that that's kind of often looked and neglected. So I guess those two right there, nice and easy do's and don'ts.
Yeah. Well, one question on that. At what age, a kid that's still growing, again, anywhere from 10 to 16 years old, the body's still developing, would you say would be a safe age to start lifting weights? Because you hear the rumor of it stunts growth and so on.
Right. That's a great question. It's often hard to answer generally, and it's something I always say to parents and kids. It really depends on that kid and their movement ability. And I guess for me, why it's so important, why I perform a movement assessment in the first place, because I right now we've got a young little 8-year-old girl who's an absolute weapon. She's an absolute machine. Now I would train her more like I would train an older teenager than compared to some of the younger ones, just because she is so coordinated, she is so developed already. But again, a lot of kind of staying away from the traditional weightlifting and things like that. I'm not real big on having kids, do massive power cleans and massive deadlifts and bench presses and squats and things like that, just because they are still growing. And depending on their sport, most of the time I don't even really care about their overall strength. I really just care about their sports performance. So it's kind of one of those things that it's hard to say on the age. It really depends on, on that kid. And how well they can move and handle load as well. Because that's the thing, if they can't do, a squat very well, body weight, and then you try to load it, with a barbell or kettlebell or something like that, oftentimes it's just going to make the movement pattern even worse. And that can cause a whole bunch of musculoskeletal injuries. So I guess, yeah, it's kind of hard to answer that question and give like a really specific age, like I said, because I've trained 8-year-old kids all the way up to, 17, 18-year-olds. It really kind of just depends on that kid and how good they are. With
individual basis.
And things like that. Yeah, exactly. And that's kind of how I address everything. It's really hard to make kind of general statements across the board. I pretty much treat every athlete and every client as an individual.
Perfect. So as business grows, do you see the company having different locations across the United States, say like New York City, Chicago, Atlanta, Houston, or is this something that's going to stay just kind of where you guys are now and build the online presence?
Yeah, that's a great question. We're probably not going to go with a kind of traditional like franchise model where we'll end up with a whole bunch of gyms, in cities all around America. But we are definitely going to have multiple locations. We're in talks right now to get a Treigning Lab affiliate out over on the East Coast. Can't say where yet, but that info will be coming soon, as well as the potential for a couple locations around the world as well. And so, we're going to have multiple locations, but definitely the online is kind of where we're headed, especially with the online consulting and coaching, as well as the online courses and education stuff that we provide as well. But yeah, we're definitely going to have multiple locations. It'll just depend on kind of growth, and we're kind of not in a hurry. We want to get things done right, make sure we got all our processes and plans in place first before we start bringing in other coaches and things like that.
Cool.
Yeah.
Do you guys offer any services in the form of travel? Let's say an MMA gym in New York needs a strength and conditioning coach, but it's not financially doable for them to have one on their team full time. Would they be able to call you guys and maybe have you send somebody out for a couple weeks or a month, or is that not something that you do?
Yeah, no, that's definitely something we can do. I've done some kind of tours like that personally myself, where teams have kind of paid me to come out for a week or two and kind of look at what they're doing, maybe consult a little bit and, start adding in some of these things into your program, or maybe taking some of these things out. It's always an option. It's always a definite possibility. I love traveling, especially when somebody else is paying for it. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, I think that's great. I'm a real big believer in idea sharing and collaborating and things like that. So, yes, we have our own athletes and our own team here, but another big thing that, I'm very, like I said, I guess excited about it or whatever is sharing that. So, if there is a team out there that's interested in some of our services and process and stuff, by all means, please get in touch.
Very cool. How many coaches are under the banner right now? And do you know how many more you see being added in the future, in the near future?
You mean directly at the Treigning Lab?
Yes.
Okay. So right now it's just myself under Coach Cal. We've just brought in another coach. So we started last year a coaching mentorship. Was basically as part of our Institute of Advanced Performance and a lot of the online courses that we provide. And that's where coaches, once they kind of do the online program, they get to come in and work with myself and Coach Cal and a lot of the athletes hands-on. So we're about to bring in 2 more. One of them kind of, Hannah, her name is, she focuses on a lot of yoga, nutrition, and things like that. She's a great help. And then also another coach, Preston, he's going to be coming in and helping me with a lot of the MMA athlete stuff. But in terms of the next few coaches we got coming, with our Institute of Advanced Performance, we actually are starting to certify coaches all over the world. We just certified our very first one in Australia, actually only last week. So as of now, we are international. But anybody can get involved in any of our programs and coaching and things like that. And again, as we kind of build and increase our online offerings, as well as potential for other locations and facilities, we'll definitely be looking for more coaches. I'm always looking for more and great coaches. I've hired and fired a lot of coaches over the years, a lot of coaches that, have really, really great academic and university degrees. But the biggest problem is they don't have a whole lot of experience, and especially experience working with high profile athletes. So that's kind of what we designed the coaching mentorship program for, is it so people will not only have access to a lot of the great information out there, but they get the hands-on experience as well. Because that coaching, that's kind of the most important part for me at the end of the day. You know, it's great if you have a whole textbook and knowledge inside your head, but if you don't have the ability to communicate it to another person, it almost becomes useless. So, yeah, I guess to answer your question, we've got 2 more coaches coming under us, I guess, in the short term, as well as pretty much an infinite possibility for new coaches in the future. So if anybody is interested in that, you know, definitely get in touch. Start off with our online programs, and then just kind of we'll be starting a lot of workshops and seminars and stuff here at the facility, but as well we'll be filming those and sharing them online as well for everybody out there. So, yeah, it's pretty kind of exciting times. We got a lot going on.
Yeah, you guys, I mean, just as a fan of you know, the sport of MMA, you guys are definitely going to be skyrocketing in very short years to come. I mean, you can just see the attention that's been brought to the team over the last couple of years. You know, just recently, and it's definitely only going to get bigger. Do you guys plan on becoming a fight team? Do you guys plan on having an in-house MMA full gym?
Yeah.
Or
we're going to. Our head coach, Mark Munoz, he's going to create Reign Wrestling, he already has Reign Wrestling. We're going to have Team Reign MMA. And he's actually overseas right now doing a USO tour for the troops. And so once he gets back, he and I will sit down and we'll start kind of bringing in some people, maybe have some like a probationary period for people to kind of try out and try to get on the team, as well as, you know, inviting in some special guests and things like that. So we eventually kind of foresee it where we'll have an amateur team and a pro team, just kind of depending on, you know, who wants to be involved in different things like that. MMA can get kind of weird, you know, because there are so many different teams out there and people have connections with some people and, you know, they got beef with other people and stuff like that. So we personally are going to try to stay away from a lot of all of that. You know, we're just here to help people essentially at the end of the day. We just happen to help a lot of mixed martial arts athletes as well. But, you know, MMA is definitely something, I mean, it's a big part of what we do. You know, it's always going to be, you know, kind of the heart and soul of what Mark Munoz has done. And Mark Munoz was actually Coach Cal's first ever MMA athlete that he started working with. So it's kind of cool that it's gone, you know, it's gone full circle. And he's now working together with us in that. So, yeah, we're pretty excited about it. Right now we have a few athletes kind of coming in. Of course, Warren Archuleta is getting ready for his big title fight at the start of that Bellator tournament coming up here in a couple of weeks. So it's kind of been all hands on deck for him. And we're not even technically open yet at the facility. We've still got a lot of building and construction and stuff going on. So it's kind of, you know, guys have been chopping and changing in between, but yeah, definitely excited about the future in that department as well.
Very cool. Well, so touching on that, and then back to a previous question I asked you about offering traveling services, with having a gym and then also offering, you know, services to help other people if you were to travel to another gym, would the person that's going to be traveling be separated from the fight team? Just so a gym wants to bring somebody in, they don't feel that there's going to be any kind of, I'll just say, shenanigans with you guys sending somebody out to work with them.
Yeah, of course. I guess we'd have to take a look at what that even looks like. I guess if they were going to fly somebody out there, it would have to be me because I'm the only coach here right now full time, and I am also working with the fighters and things like that. So I guess maybe down the line when we do have other coaches that have kind of learned some of our processes and stuff, we could kind of send them out on our behalf as well. But yeah, again, we try to stay away from a lot of that kind of hoopla that, you know, comes in professional sports. And it's not just MMA. I worked at 2 different Division I colleges, and you get a lot of the same, you know, kind of stuff there. I think it's just the nature of the beast, you know, when you're dealing with these kind of sports and egos and people. And, you know, there's just a lot of moving parts, you know, try to keep a lot of people happy.
Yeah. For sure. All right, well, this is something that we talk about privately, and if you just want to say no comment, because I do know that it's something that's, you know, out of your hands and not your decision and so forth, but if you wouldn't mind kind of discussing what happened with TJ and with him and the gym, and if you have anything to share there, or if it's something you can't talk about.
Yeah, no, I mean, I can talk about what I know. Of course, there's a lot of the conversations happen between TJ and Coach Cal that I wasn't even there for or really privy to. of course, the unfortunate thing of what came out and what he was busted for. Coach Cal actually decided to back him and support him on that end. Just everybody deserves a second chance. We all make mistakes. I think there are a couple of conversations about how we're going to build the fight team moving forward. They kind of just came to a disagreement where they were both, let's just agree to disagree and go our separate ways.
Okay.
It's just kind of where it's at right now. I don't know what the future will hold. Again, I'm kind of just here to do my job and kind of keep my head down and my mouth shut and just listen and learn. And yeah, a lot of that, honestly, I wasn't even really involved with, so I don't really have the ability to say much other than that.
Okay, yeah, no problem. So you said Juan Archuleta's still there. Is Cub Swanson still going to be working with you guys?
Yeah, I've been working with Cub on the strength and conditioning side of things. He's doing a bit of a split camp. He travels out to Indio once a week because he's still out there with Joel Diaz, the really, really good boxing coach, who I think Cub's been with him for pretty much his entire career. So we kind of got a split thing going on. When the guys are here, they'll jump in and jump into the strength and conditioning, and then they'll go and get their work in with a lot of other people. And that's also another thing that makes it really hard to build a fight team, almost like building like an NFL team or franchise. Like, one, of course, it's an individual sport, but two, you've got so many different guys with their different styles. Oftentimes they all have completely different coaches. They might work together with one Muay Thai coach, but then one of them's like, you know what, I really like the boxing style of this coach over here. Or another one, this is my jiu-jitsu coach. He's been my jiu-jitsu coach for 10, 15 years. So even if we have a team and a head coach and our own coaches, a lot of them still kind of go off and do their own thing with other coaches as well. So, that's something that's just a part of mixed martial arts and the way it goes. It's I don't know where I was going with that. I got sidetracked.
Well, I understand what you're saying, and I really think kind of like what you said before. You guys want to bring in people that are going to be cohesive with each other, and I think if you guys got Juan Archuleta there, you got Cub Swanson there, you got Mark Munoz, going to be the head coach there. You bring in a couple more guys, 5, 6 more guys or whatever, coming in even part time, and they get to feel each other out, and even if they're only there part time and then going back to their current main gym, over time you get enough absolute killers and champs working with you guys. Guys will slowly be with you more and more and more percentage of the time, and it's definitely only a matter of time until you guys got that guys year round. So
that's kind of the plan. Of course, where Mark Munoz is gone, he's gone for I think like a month, so we kind of knew that was coming up earlier in the year. So we haven't really, pushed trying to build a team yet until he is back and he can kind of take it over, full time with his full time and attention, which he's great at. But it's exciting times. I think what we're trying to do in the future has really never been done before in the history of MMA in terms of like the facility that we're going to have with a lot of the sports performance and recovery side of things. And then on top of that, just kind of the culture and camaraderie that we build with MMA. So it's one of those things that, it's because it's never been done before, a lot of people don't quite understand it. So it's, that kind of, like they say, the cost of vision, you got to be able to see years ahead of time. And that's kind of where we're at right now as a staff. Working with the guys that we still have who are still fighting. We got guys, that I work with personally almost on a daily basis that still got fights coming up. I guess more in your like amateur level or they're pro, but they're not quite, that upper echelon pro yet where they haven't quite cracked into, like a Bellator or a 1FC. But we've got a bunch of guys on the local circuit here in California that are starting to do really well and make names for themselves. So, we're really just kind of here to help and support a lot of that.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
This one might be a little bit of an odd question, but with the UFC now having their Performance Institute, which has been around for a little while now, have they ever reached out to Coach Cal to maybe check out what they're going? Or, because he made just such a huge splash in the game very recently on a huge level. It's definitely in the MMA world. So,
it's kind of a funny one because, again, like you said, it's kind of new and he made this big old splash in the MMA world. I think just because a lot of the attention and media and stuff that we're getting earlier in the year. But what Coach Cal's been doing, he's been doing it for a whole number of years, 20 to 30 years almost. And, of course, he's only getting better and only creating more and more algorithms and science and stuff. It's really cool. But pretty much from what I understand, like almost every organization has had somebody reach out to try to get in touch with Cal and learn what he's doing with the weight cutting side of things. So, I mean, that's the UFC PI, Bellator. I know he's talked to people at 1SC. I know the guys at the California State Athletic Commission are constantly calling him. At one point, it felt like they were calling him almost once a week, just trying to figure out, like, hey, how do these numbers work? And he's like, here's the math, here's where it is, here's how much water is in this person's body at this point in time. And, like, all this stuff, like I said, it's so next level. It's actually really profound. So, yeah, I think all MMA organizations right now want, the Cal methods and how Coach Cal can be so effective with his weight cutting and things like that. So a few little bits and pieces I'm sure we'll start sharing over the next few years, but at the same time, a lot of it too, that's his bread and butter. That's his secret weapon. He's keeping that close to his heart for his own fighters. So, we're always up to consulting and helping out, and especially with the weight cutting. Unfortunately, there's so many people out there doing it just the wrong ways and hurting themselves and, diminishing their performance and, literally putting themselves into, kind of critical care almost, being rushed to hospital and things like that. So, of course, none of us want to see that happen at all. I think there's a lot of work that needs to be done in the realm of weight cutting for these sports. So that's something that we're definitely big on. We're actually starting to put together the preliminary stages for Pacific certification. So for the already professional coaches and things out there that want to start learning some of these methods and how they're so effective and why they're so effective, we're going to start putting together as well. So yeah, I guess to answer your question, yeah, somebody from the UFC PI has gotten in touch with Cal quite a few times now.
Oh, that's cool that he's taking the phone call and putting safety of guys and gals first when he's getting a phone call from somebody that large in the business. To make sure that they're being safe. Because I don't know if you watched The Ultimate Fighter when it first started out, but I want to say it was season 1 Ultimate Fighter, and they actually aired. I can't recall which fighter was making weight, but I mean they had 3 guys just dragging them from the floor back into the sauna to lay him back on the floor, and then they sat in front of the door so he couldn't get back out. I mean it's eye-opening, and I really hope a lot of people who are new fans today kind of go back and watch that particular scene, which I'll look it up and post which one it was when I load this. But, I mean, it's eye-opening the depths that guys would go to back in the day to just make weight to go out there and fight the next day.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And, I mean, even today, you still see some of the way that guys are cutting weight, or even hearing about some of the ways that they're cutting weight. It's just like, man, it's madness. It really is. So I think that's kind of, in these sports, that's probably the area that you need the biggest improvement. I mean, 1FC's kind of tried to change it around a little bit by now not having any weight divisions or not having any weight cuts, where I believe you have to stay within a certain range kind of at all times throughout the year. So I think that might be a way to get around it, but also you're just learning and understanding the principles of weight cutting and not doing it by dehydration. That's not the only way to cut weight. I think that's one of the most kind of, I guess, misunderstood or misused ways of cutting weight is just by dehydrating. We do a weight cut, and the guys do jump in the sauna and they sweat a lot. But, you start looking at the numbers that Coach Cal has with these algorithms, and he monitors pretty much everything. Like, I know the last fight with TJ that he lost, a lot of the guys are saying that, the weight cut is what caused him to be unbalanced and different things like that. When you look at Coach Cal, if you look at all of his algorithms, you can see how much water he had in his body at the time, and he was tracking it for, like I said, 72 days before the fight. So, again, it's kind of with the numbers. You're just going by what the numbers say. And that's why he is talking to people like the California State Athletic Commission, because they're looking to be like, hey, how do these numbers make sense? And then once Coach Cal can explain them, they're like, oh, wow, we've never seen anything like this before. Well, of course you haven't, because Coach Cal's the one that came up with it. He's the one that came up with the science behind it.
Yeah, hey, it's anything that you guys or anybody can do to make it safer, because you definitely don't want to see somebody's career get cut short from the cutting weight unsafely, which can lead to bad performance and getting severely hurt inside the cage. And you definitely want to see longevity out of a lot of these fighters. So you announced your podcast. where can people find it? Where can they find you to learn more about yourself, about the gym, what you guys got going on?
Yeah, absolutely. Just myself is Coach Boss T-Lab Instagram, and then the Instagram for the work page is Treigning_Lab. That's, of course, training with Rain in the middle, REIGN. I just started a podcast last week. I only posted up the little 15-minute intro. It's called the Boss Cast. Right now it's on Spotify and Anchor. I'm working to get on a few other platforms. I'm absolutely new to this podcasting game myself, so I've got a lot to learn. I'm sure I'll get it out on a couple other platforms as soon as I can. But yeah, that's kind of how to get a hold of me. I don't do too much of the social media stuff. I don't have a Twitter or anything like that. So pretty much just through the Instagram, and of course our website as well, traininglab.com. If you're interested in any of the programs or HTMA, the hair test that we were talking about earlier, all that can be found on the website.
Fantastic. Well, hey, I appreciate your time. We've been talking back and forth for about a week or so trying to get this lined up. I know you're an extremely busy person, so I definitely appreciate the time, and I hope some people take advantage of, you know, the offers that you guys got going on, especially being able to do stuff online with you. I mean, that's something where it doesn't matter where you live. You know, like I said, I'm over in Michigan, and there's a couple of gyms here with some good training, but, I mean, anybody that's even going and doing CrossFit, you know, would definitely benefit greatly from being able to get some samples out to you guys and going over a program. So I hope people take advantage of it.
Definitely. Actually, funny you spoke of CrossFit. We just started working with a few CrossFit athletes internationally as well, some big timers. So we got a couple announcements coming in that department as well. But yeah, essentially we work with any human and any athlete, any sport. You know, that's really what we're here to do, is just to kind of, you know, help and start spreading a lot of this kind of good information out there as well, and dispelling a lot of myths and stuff that people can kind of come across thanks to the fitness industry, unfortunately. But yeah, we're really just here to help at the end of the day.
Fantastic. Well, hey, I appreciate it, and I hope to talk to you again soon, and I hope the fight gym gets rolling when Mark gets back, and nothing but success. Yeah,
definitely. Thank you. I really appreciate you having me on. It was a great chat, and I look forward to doing it again.
All right. Take care.
All right. You too. Bye-bye.
Hey, everybody. So that was the episode with Coach Boss. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. Definitely, if you have the opportunity to, go online, check out their website, look at some of their educational stuff that they got going on, things that you can sign up for. It would definitely be a great asset for anybody to have, like he said, anywhere from kids all the way up to professional athletes. And if you do sign up for anything, just remember in the message box, just put promo-spectator in there. They'll know where you got it from, and you'll be able to take advantage of any discounts or anything that they got going on. Again, please give us 5-star rating anywhere that you're listening, a follow, a like, tag some friends, check out Instagram, follow there, tag a couple friends on any of the episodes that you think they might find interesting, any of the posts, and definitely follow for all your fight news. All right, everybody, I'll see you next time.